Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Grumpy Geek, where we love all things geek more than fanboys love to argue about Goku and Superman, including myself. As usual, I am your delightfully deranged host, Cassius Samuels, and today I got a brand new Fanboy FACEOFF for you guys. And you know how I like to do it? I like to try to select the obscure matchups that haven't been done over and over, and today is no different as I bring you a showdown of epic proportions. Today I bring you the Japanese anime sensation, the Guyver Bio Booster Armor versus none other than the notorious Blue Beetle. And as usual, you guys know the drill. The face-off will be broken down into 5 categories, being origin, cultural impact and popularity, feats and impressive displays of power, powers and abilities, and of course, the head-to-head face-off. So with that all being said, let's go ahead and jump right in and get this party started. So starting with the origin of the Guyver, the Bio Booster Armor story basically is about a young boy who discovers a mysterious symbiotic techno-organic mechanism that bonds with him and bestows him with great power. The Guyver unit itself was originally created from an alien parasite and designed as an all-purpose environmental suit of great power that was meant to be used by a mysterious race of extraterrestrials that were responsible for genetically engineering all life on Earth, including humans. These same creators decided one day to just test this Guyver unit out on the humans that they had engineered, and the results had them terrified as they witnessed the creation of a weapon of mass destruction that they could not control. The first Guyver, that they dubbed Guyver Zero, attacked the creators, destroyed a whole bunch of their ships, and would not remove his armor when telepathically ordered to. Deeply terrified of what they had created, these creators eventually quarantined the Guyver, and they used a device called the Unit Remover to obviously remove the unit from the human. Then they incinerated him and departed from the planet, never to be seen from or heard from again. Moving on to the Blue Beetle. First, I have to clarify, since there are several different versions of the Blue Beetle with different powers and different origins, we're going to use the most recent origin of Jaime Reyes, just for the sake of simplifying the debate. The Blue Beetle Scarab, previously shown as an artifact of magic, was later retconned as a tool of war for the Reach, who are an ancient race of cosmic marauders in the DC universe. After being defeated by the Guardians of the Universe thousands of years ago and forced into a truce, the Reach began to pose as basically these benevolent aliens with these benign intentions to all these races throughout the galaxy, lending their advanced technology to budding civilizations. The Scarab is a gift for the world's champion, giving them amazing powers and the knowledge of the Reach to protect his or her peers, their planet, etc. Secretly, the Scarab is part of an advanced hive mind with its own artificial intelligence covertly supplanting the wearer's own, which basically means it's like taking over, trying to overcome the willpower of the host and take over. The wearer is basically turned into the ultimate infiltrator and typically used by the Reach as a covert agent to take down its own world. So it's kind of sick, you know what I mean? However, the Blue Beetle Scarab of the Earth is damaged for Jaime Reyes, and so instead of controlling the host, it forms a symbiotic relationship with him instead. So looking at both of these origins together, it's easy to see the parallels that make them both similar to each other. But to me, the decisive difference is that the Guyver unit's origin was never retconned like the Blue Beetle's, so I feel like that gives it a little bit more authenticity for me. Remember, this is all opinion. We can all have different ones, but for me, that gives it a little bit of authenticity. In addition to that, I also like the fact that the Guyver units that bonded with the humans in the Guyver story rebelled against their creators instead of being like the Scarabs that bonded with their hosts, who were always used as mere drones to conquer worlds for their creators. Jaime's Scarab is the only exception to that because his Scarab was damaged. Not only that, I think the origin of the Guyver unit does an excellent job of romanticizing the ancient aliens, ancient astronaut mythology that many believe to be the truth of how mankind came to exist on this earth. So for me, this round kind of goes to the Guyver in a close one. As far as impact and popularity go for our second round, the Guyver originally started off as a manga and was serialized for publication and made its first appearance on February 18, 1985. Since then, it has been adapted into a 12-episode anime series from 89 to 92, an animated feature film titled Guyver Out of Control that came out in 1986, 2 live-action movies that came out in 91 and 94, and a 26-episode anime series based on the first 59 chapters of the manga that came out in 2005 as well. As far as its impact and popularity today for the Guyver goes, the manga is still avidly read in Japan right now, but the large cult following that Guyver had in America back in the 90s when it first hit the States is kind of dried up immensely, since the latest adaptation of the series that wrapped up in 2006 didn't really receive a whole lot of attention and didn't really receive a whole lot of accolades or anything like that. Nobody really even knows that it exists, to be honest. And you put that together with the fact that other manga series like Bleach and Naruto and others have long swept in and taken the spot of America's favorite Japanese mangas, which killed a lot of Guyver's momentum and popularity in the States. I mean, you can add Dragon Ball Z to that list. I mean, the list is kind of endless now at this point, and that's why a lot of people don't even know who the Guyver is, really. When it comes to the Blue Beetle, who has been appearing in comic book publications since 1939, I think it's safe to say that the character has made more of an impact to continue to be a beloved character for 77 years now. The original Blue Beetle was created by Fox Comics and not only had its own comic book, but also had a weekly radio show as well. Eventually, the character got bought out by DC Comics in 1983 when they introduced Ted Kord as the new Blue Beetle during the legendary Crisis on Infinite Earth story. From there, he started in his own 24-issue comic and became a member of the Justice League of America before he was subsequently killed during the Infinite Crisis storyline that took place in 2005 and 2006. Blue Beetle has gone on from there to appear in several other versions of media like Batman the Brave and the Bold, Young Justice, Smallville, and he's even showed up in a few video games as well. Add all that to the fact that the Blue Beetle still has a very loyal following of fans today who follow Jaime Reyes religiously. I think it's a no-brainer that Blue Beetle wins this round easy, hands down, without any debate. It's almost a curb stomp. So moving into our third round, with both of our contenders having 1 point apiece, we're going to get into some powers. But right up front, I just want to tell you my personal opinion. I feel like their powers in this category are pretty dead even, with both of the contenders sharing a lot of the same abilities or variations of the same abilities that have parallels, much like their origins. Since they're both alien origins, they're kind of based on the same concepts. It's hard to not have similarities. But there are some key differences that give them certain advantages, which I will cover more in detail in the head-to-head round. But for now, I'm just going to briefly run through each power set and explain the unique capabilities that each of them possesses. So, getting into the Blue Beetle's powers, who has a wide array and a wide selection of powers, ranging from an advanced AI computer system with high-tech tracking systems to the ability to manipulate wireless networks and all kinds of other little crazy shit. It's all really minor. We're just going to push that to the side because those are not really his offensive abilities. So for this category, we're just going to focus mainly on his more significant powers, starting with his superhuman strength, which we've seen to be on the level of like aliens like Mongol, who possess great amounts of strength. So there's that. He has superhuman agility. His armor can reconfigure itself to create a wide array of tools and weapons, including an energy cannon, a sword and a shield, a grappling hook, an energy blaster, claws, powerful long-ass blades on his hands that are like over a foot in length that we saw shear through like tree trunks on Young Justice and shit. He's got dual-purpose wings that can act as shields and are capable of taking him at subluminal flight velocities, which is almost fast as light, and he can enter subspace. He's got the ability to adapt energy with his energy blaster. Like, he can tailor blasts for specific opponents. Like, he can make a Kryptonian energy blast to fight Superman, for example. The blast can penetrate through a Green Lantern shield, which makes it pretty powerful. The armor can call up anti-magic effects against magical opponents as well. And by the Scarab's own estimation, it can even develop countermeasures that can take on the Spectre. And if you know anything about the DC universe, the Spectre is not nobody to be fucked with. So that's a pretty good testament to the strength of the Blue Beetle Scarab. It can also manipulate vibrational frequencies, which means it can like pull things in and out of other dimensions kind of at will, like Jaime did with Brother Eye during the Infinite Crisis. The Scarab can also use this vibrational manipulation ability to shift Jaime out of phase with the universe, which makes him kind of invisible and intangible to anything apart from other Reach technology. And on top of that, he can also form an energy bubble, which is basically like a force field protective shield that can protect him from, basically outside attacks and all that. And it can even prevent anyone from leaving. Like the Flash can't vibrate through it. If you trap it inside of him, he can't get out of it. So it's impenetrable to like vibrational manipulation as well, which is pretty cool. As far as the Gyrus powers, the Guyver unit gives him superhuman strength, incredible speed, strong armor, impervious to most terrestrial attacks with various weapons and special abilities as well. He has vibration globes on his face, these two little silver dots like around his mouth area that produce these highly destructive sound waves, known as a sonic buster. He has a Mega Smasher, which is basically two high-power particle cannons contained beneath the Guyver's chest armor. And it should be noted that the Mega Smasher is considered in Guyver canon to be the most powerful particle beam weapon in existence on Earth. The upgraded version of the Giga Smasher is even more powerful at 100 times the power of the Mega Smasher, and has been known to require a significant amount of time to recharge after it's been fired once. So it's kind of like a one and done deal. The Guyver also has a head beam, which is like a multi-directional laser that's mounted above the control metal in the center of the Guyver's forehead. He has high-frequency swords that he can eject from his elbows. Sometimes they come from their hands. It just depends on the style of the Guyver unit. There's been a couple different styles of Guyver units that have their blades come from different parts of their body, but they basically extend from generally the forearm area. And these blades vibrate at an extremely high frequency that allow them to cut through almost any material with ease, also known as sonic swords. And the Guyver unit also has a gravity control orb, which basically siphons gravitational energy from a higher dimension. And its two main uses include giving the Guyver the ability to fly and to unleash destructive gravity waves in the form of what's called a gravity cannon. It's also known as a pressure cannon. This just depends on the translation you get from the manga, which series you're watching, but it's the same thing, it just has a different name, just depending on what you're referencing. And it can also be used as a gravitational shield temporarily. The orb can also be used as a gravity implosion device, which behaves like it creates like mini black holes, sucking in all matter and leaving no trace. The Guyver also has a hyper sense, which basically are these two metallic orbs that you see on the side of the Guyver's head, which basically gives the Guyver, the host, and the Guyver the ability to sense electromagnetic fields as well as thermal signatures outside of their direct line of sight, stuff like that. Think of it like a super heightened spider sense. And the Guyver can also regenerate, has immense regeneration capabilities, which we'll get to in the impressive feats category. But after looking at both sides, in the end, it's kind of a tough decision to make for me, even though they both have similar powers. On one hand, you have the Blue Beetle, who seems to possess a much wider array of powers and abilities than the Guyver. But on the other hand, you have the Guyver, who may not have the most powers in quantity, but he has the most devastating in quality. So with weapons like the Mega Smasher, the Giga Smasher, the Pressure Cannon, the ability to cause little mini black holes and gravity implosions. It seems pretty obvious to me that the Guyver should win this round, but I'm open to debate on it. If you guys can present a better argument, maybe you could sway me, but for me, I'm going to give it to the Guyver, and that means we got a score of 2-1 going into our fourth round. While both of these characters have had their fair share of accomplishments throughout their publication histories, there really aren't that many examples of super impressive feats that have been accomplished by either the Guyver or the Blue Beetle. But after scouring the internet with a fine-tooth comb, I was able to dig up a few that were worthy of mention in a Fanboy Face-Off. Starting with the Guyver, we've seen him use the Mega Smasher to destroy entire mountains as proof of its raw power. He has demonstrated the ability to regrow approximately 50% of his brain in a matter of minutes, which this goes back to the previous round where I said the Guyver had extraordinary regeneration capabilities. This would be what I was talking about. Another feat that is tied to the regeneration capabilities of the Guyver has to do with the Guyver managing to come back from death after having his control metal ripped from his head. The control metal is basically the center of the Gyrus power, all of its energy. It regulates its energy and all that, which we'll get into in the next round. But after it was ripped from his head, this basically subsequently killed the host, and he was able to come back from that. So that's pretty impressive. The Guyver has defeated several of the most powerful alien hybrids on Earth and has destroyed several Kronos Corporation headquarters. For those that are uninitiated, Kronos is like the Luthor Corp of the Guyver story. As far as the Blue Beetle, we have him healing himself after Maxwell Lord shot him in the head. He's replicated his own heart and fused it to his friend Paco to save his life. He survived a fall from orbit. He also survived a nuclear strike directly head on. That's a pretty impressive feat. He went toe-to-toe with several Lanterns. He helped defeat Brother Eye, and he was a crucial part of stopping the Reach invasion of Earth in Young Justice. So going off that list alone, in my mind, the Guyver barely has the advantage, just based on the fact that he actually has feats that led to significant victories over signature villains, while Blue Beetle has survived some pretty devastating attacks and even contributed to some pretty big victories and some pretty big stories. It just isn't enough in my mind to give him the edge over the Guyver in this category. I mean, Blue Beetle may have survived the nuclear strike, but the Guyver survived death itself. I mean, that's enough alone to give the W to the Guyver in this round. So going into our fifth and final round, the score is 3-1 Guyver. So for our fifth and final round, when it comes to head-to-head advantages and disadvantages, it's another thin line separating these two when you analyze it and try to break it down, because they have so many similar powers that they cancel a lot of them out for each other for the most part. But having said that, there are still a few key differences that can be debated that give the upper hand to one contender over the other. As I already pointed out previously, the Guyver has the most powerful weaponry, the most devastating attacks between him and the Blue Beetle. So that's already 1 point for him in this category. He is also virtually invulnerable to all terrestrial attacks, which would make a lot of Blue Beetle's powers useless in a straight up head-to-head confrontation. However, the Guyver has one glaring super weakness located in its control metal, which I mentioned is the button-like sphere that's located in the center of the Guyver's forehead. The control metal basically regulates the flow of energy between the organism, the parasitic organism, and the host body. And it basically prevents the alien parasite that the Guyver system is based on from literally eating its host alive. If something happens to it, it basically disintegrates, it absorbs the host, the armor folds into itself, the host dies almost immediately as soon as the control metal is seriously damaged or totally separated from the Guyver unit itself. The control metal also stores the genetic structure and the memories of its host, so that if the host is injured or killed or has the control metal removed from its body, the control metal can regenerate the host from even the smallest bits of genetic material. which I think is pretty cool. But the Guyver unit is also vulnerable to various alien enzymes and acids, which are capable of melting the Guyver's armor. But that's really kind of a non-factor if you consider in the fact that the Blue Beetle will probably have no idea what those acid compounds were unless, you know, his AI supercomputer was able to figure that out and formulate that on its own somehow, which is totally within the realm of possibility, so I will leave that open. When it comes to the Blue Beetle, though, I think that he has a couple of key advantages that would allow him to survive a great deal of punishment from the Guyver. And if he played his cards right, he might actually be able to take him down. Between his force field capabilities that are strong enough to withstand a nuclear strike and the ability to manipulate his own vibrational frequency to the point of intangibility, I think he could easily give the Guyver a run for his money in a head-to-head battle. Even though the Guyver has the Mega Smasher, it can only be fired once, and the same goes for his Gravity Implosion Bomb. So in theory, all Blue Beetle would have to do is find a way to survive or avoid the combination of those two devastating attacks, and then the advantage would be all his. With the ability to create energy blasts that adapt to their enemy, he would be able to do devastating amounts of damage to the Guyver armor, since the Scarab technology is not of terrestrial design. But in the end, for me, it's another close one that could go either way, just depending on where your loyalties lie. But I gotta give this round to the Guyver. I'm sorry. Let's be clear, the Blue Beetle is 100% an underdog in this fight. But to be fair, I believe that the Blue Beetle is a very close underdog and is well enough equipped to have a chance at surviving or avoiding the Guyver's most devastating attacks, to avoid being killed long enough that he can exploit the control metal weakness of the Bio Booster armor. But having said that, I just think that there's too much that has to go right for the Blue Beetle to get to that point. Like, he has to survive too much. There's too much that could go wrong. He needs like the perfect storm, if you will, of things to happen in order for him to ultimately get the upper hand on the Guyver to the point where he can exploit the control metal weakness. I just don't think he has it in him, but it would be an awesome fight to see it go down. There's no doubt in my mind of that. So with that being said, that brings us to a final score of 4-1 in favor of the Guyver Bio Booster Armor, who pulls off a devastatingly landslide of a victory of this battle of alien techno supremacy. I know there are probably a lot of people who are going to disagree with the final outcome of this face-off, but that's okay. Remember, it's all opinion-based anyway, no matter how much objective criteria we try to use for comparison. You know what I mean? This one was a lot of fun for me. I hope it was fun for you guys as well. Please drop a comment down below. Let me know your thoughts on the face-off. Give me some ideas for some other face-off. Don't forget to like the page, subscribe to the channel, share. Follow me on social media. I'm all over Facebook. I'm on Twitter. All the links for that would be in the description down below. And I guess I'll holler at you guys next time. All right? Peace.